Hello, this is NDE, Near Desert Experience. Water, 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 the Near Desert Experience. This is an introduction to what is going to be an overview of the desert congressional districts, the districts in California that are in or in part of the desert areas, and to discuss the changes in the environment in the desert areas and how that may affect how people live there in the future decades and how that will affect politics. These are my thoughts and impressions, and I'd just like to share them. But this is going to be an overview because this is March 4th, 2024, and tomorrow will be the primary election in California. After the results come in on that, and in a number of these congressional districts, there are multiple candidates running to achieve the top 2 spots on the ballot so that their names will appear on the national election ballot in November. So we will start then tomorrow examining each of these districts and how things may play out as far as the environmental changes that are taking place as to how politics will look for this area of California. NDE, the Near Desert Experience. So this is a little poem I wrote. The water's doing what it oughter. We say we love the farmers, and the farmers love the land. When the atmospheric rivers drown that old baked desert sand, and the desert dry beds slake their thirst after 10,000s of years, when the farmers can't grow crops at all, they just stare into the water. The water's doing what it oughter. Do you love the farmers? Who am I? I'm Sharon Pierce. I work as a contract journalist. I'm doing this to encourage voters in the landscape to see that it is really changing where they may be living in the desert areas of Central and Southern California. And they know that because we have been experiencing atmospheric rivers, torrential rains the past few years that are watering the landscape, and they're not stopping. That means where there has been water and dry land, dry lakes, sinks, empty aquifers, water is returning. And it's saying it's going to stay. So this is to ask you if you have started thinking about this, if you live in this area or are thinking about living in this area, how do you want your environment to be as the area becomes more balanced with water, perhaps more lush? Then develop your politics for your lives the way you want it to be. This is a time of change. We've been talking about it coming. And since about 2021, nature has been affecting that change. My political position is that I am registered as a no preference voter, no party preference. And it has been that way for a very long time. I prefer to vote independently. And I do not have any interest in supporting either of the 2 major parties. I will sometimes vote for their candidates, but they've been out there a long time, so people are disenchanted. The idea is to look around at all the changes that are happening and saying, well, what can we do for ourselves now? Why look at the desert? The great environmental change is underway. Deluges of water are introducing Californians to that fact if they're paying attention. Water is once again being absorbed underground. It's filling aquifers. It may be creating a much more lush atmosphere for creatures to live out in the deserts, and it will be creatures, not just humans. The people need who want to be there may very well want to decide how they want their environment to be represented through government, and it won't be the same as in the past. Towns will develop possibly out of older and or abandoned towns that already have infrastructure, and there are some out there, not just Barstow or Baker, there are some Victorville, there are some other towns, Ridgecrest, there are little towns like Rand and some others. What philosophies do you want to see developed here and now? Not political parties or candidates, but ways of life, dominant values that are acted on and preserved, and you can have your politics express how you want that to be. Government is not just candidates being elected and serving. It is the rules for living together in communities, the guidance and guidelines for community populations. New ones are definitely coming in. So nature is replenishing California's water resources. The Mojave Desert will redefine itself over this century unless you believe the atmospheric rivers and downpours and deluges and torrential rains are going to stop. There's no indication they are going to stop. And even as I speak, the Sierra Nevadas are experiencing 5 to 12 feet of snow. The 2023-2024 winter did not start as early as it normally does. It really sort of started towards the end of December, but it has been coming on strong and building up more reservoirs of moisture to add to what stayed around the past couple of years. Dry lakes are receiving water that remains for years, and the desert will not go back to what it was. People won't let the replenished lakes remain stagnant either by being locked off by levees. They're talking about it. Changes are coming that will alter living conditions for all desert creatures. People can make some choices now and to where they will go and what they want for themselves out here. People will determine population growth, not real estate investors creating cities for no reason other than investment to give themselves more money power. Population growth brings diversity. This is the new frontier, I suggest. People can design and refine their politics. As far north as Fresno, south to Tejon Pass, some are recognizing this is the important change that was forecast. The 2024 election in California may reveal the trend lines through districts 20 and 29 and its desert regions. California has 52 congresspersons. It currently has 40 who are Democrats and 12 who are Republicans. In the 2024 election, it may pick up 3, 4, or 5 seats for the Democrats, and they may come close to flipping and showing a trend for future elections. California wants to be the kingmaker in this 2024 election and give the House of Representatives the majority in November for Democrats. Environmental adjustments, huge and to do with water, are activated across North America now. We can see it after the rains. Those whose eyes are clear can see it. This time, people must be preservative and conservation conscious. Californians know they cannot allow exploitation of the water resources or any change topography this time to allow corporatism, not republicanism, but corporatism, a fading failure in politics to claim any more out from under citizens. The reminder is to be more than ever watchful. Be doers. Here comes a look at topography and nature's strength. Below is the California Congressional District map of 2024. So the districts that I'm going to be covering are primarily the south central area of California, districts 20 through 29. Also, the southern part of District 3, and this is Death Valley, this is the Mojave Desert, and down along the Arizona border and the Mexican border in District 25. The areas in through the heavily dense areas along the coastline, so I won't be getting into those are pretty much set. And they're filled in. They're not open, so much open land, a little, but not so much. Another district that I'll briefly look at in later programs is 13. 13, this is the heart of the Great Salad Bowl, the San Joaquin Valley. In 2022, this district it went to was one of the last district. I think it was the last district called in the election in 2022. The difference between the Republican who eventually won and the Democrat was 0.4%. This was a philosophical competition, and the same two candidates are going to be competing this year. In fact, they're the only two in the primary, so they're going to win the primary, 1, 2. We don't know which one will come in 1 and which one will come in 2, but they'll be on the ballot in November, and we'll see what happens then. So when you talk about flipping districts, this one could be one that goes. Just to show you some previews, this is Badwater Basin. And where that is right along Death Valley. Does come a little bit down into District 23, but mainly it's up here. And Badwater Basin is the lowest part of Death Valley, the hottest place. And now it's obtaining and retaining and receiving water. Last July, 5th of July, Badwater Basin had water beginning to collect. By August 30th, this was the water. February 14th, last month, this was Badwater Basin. More water is beginning to stay above land over in here. It's thinning out just a little, or maybe it's down around in here, but mainly it's retaining the water and increasing the water. Some other of the districts are District 20 is where former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy represented. That was this district. He quit. There are 11 persons running for that seat in tomorrow's primary. So we will see how that one goes. This area, 22, contains the Great Tulare Lake, one of the largest freshwater lakes that was in the West until 2 centuries back when farmers began to dam it up. It was drying up. It was pretty much dry, but it had water at times. So it's surrounded by levees now, but the water is coming and people are breaking open the levees. They have to, so the water can get out. They can't keep draining and draining and draining because the pumping out of these dry lakes only causes them to turn into sinks. And that creates more lakes when the rains come again. You're such a critic, Missy. You know what I'm saying? Go. All right. So this contains some of the Great Totari Lake area. It's the Fresno area. It's pretty highly, 21 is pretty highly populated, but it has some areas, the foothills, going into the foothills. This, by the way, is the Sierras, and the southern end comes in down here. This District 20 contains Bakersfield, and it all loops around over in this direction. And so it almost goes all the way over to the coast. So this is where Kevin McCarthy resigned from representing this. These two, 24 and 26, are considered solid Democratic seats. They've been Democratic for a long time. This contains Santa Barbara County and San Luis Obispo. This is Ventura, Oxnard, maybe a little of Simi Valley. 27 comes in on the east side of the San Fernando Valley, but it also goes out into out into the desert area too. 23 is the Mojave District desert. It's Victorville, Apple Valley, Victor Valley. This is where the population tends to be. There are a number of major highways out here, Barstow and Baker, and go up this way is Las Vegas. This District 25 is oddly shaped. There are a number of gerrymandered districts out here. The main population is right around this area where the yellow is. This is all desert. What they do out there now is mine for lithium. They consider lithium to be one of the major minerals to be mined in the United States. They've built out on their lithium mine. They knew they had a lithium mine, but they found more lithium. And it's in batteries and it's used for a lot of things. And they figure it's a very important mineral to be mining out in this area. So that's how that goes. And then districts 28 and 29 come down in here around LA and the Inland Empire, what they call the Inland Empire, which is if you're downtown Los Angeles and begin to drive east, below Pasadena and out into along the San Bernardino Mountains, Angeles National Forest, all those towns out in the flat area before you turn up to go east. That's what all of this is. And it backs up onto Angeles National Forest and the San Bernardino Mountains. So that's the area I will be looking at in these congressional districts. And just one other thing that I will show. This is District 23. Years ago, Mojave River in Barstow. So there are times, there's 100 miles of the Mojave Desert that is not underground. Most of it's underground, and it comes up around Barstow. Owens Lake and the Owens River is dry most of the time, but sometimes there's water in Owens Lake, and the Owens River is dry at times, or barely a trickle. And then there are times when it fills with water. The idea here that I am positing, it's my strong belief that all these rivers are going to fill up again if they can break through. And the lakes, there are lakes that were drained, they were dry, but then they would occasionally fill up with water and the farmers would drain them. When they drained them and drained them and drained them and drained the aquifers, they sank. So they got lower. And now the torrential rains are coming and they're landing in these sinks. Here's this is from a blog spot called Underground Drivers. Sometimes the water comes up. This is desert. This is also Mojave Desert. It does have growth. It does have desert growth. This is meandering river, and when it floods, it's just straight out there. Here it is again. I'm not sure which city that is. Maybe it's just greater Los Angeles, Pasadena. Now here is the Mojave Desert. Here is where the Mojave River comes down to Barstow. This is Highway 15. It goes over to Vegas. This is a national preserve. If you drive this road, you will see signs, Halloran Springs, Halloran Springs. Well, that's where it is. This is Needles. This is Bullhead City, Arizona. Lake Mojave, and the Mojave River comes over here really, but this is Lake Mojave, another desert river that's filling up. Searchlight, Nevada, and up here is Vegas. So more on this another time after the election night tomorrow.